Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing inspiring stories from business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors on the pursuit of wealth and financial freedom. This episode of the Inspire to Invest podcast has been brought to you by the Wealth Club. Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire to Invest. I have Bob Brown here with me today, and he is an author, speaker, patented innovator. I was going to say investor, but innovator, and the foremost authority on foundation repair diagnosis. He's got more than 35 years experience. He brings transparency, accountability, and engineering efficacy to an otherwise opaque industry. His forthcoming book, Foundation Repair Secrets, it's part of the Advantage book series, I would assume, based on the bio, but it reveals insiders' secrets to avoid costly repairs. So a little bit of a tongue twister, but we made it through, and I'd love to welcome you to the show. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I guess just to dive into it, I actually didn't understand some of the things from your bio. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about your career and how it connects to real estate investing.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I am an investor also. I own 9 rental houses and 3 commercial properties. So over the years, I've picked up things and held on to them. So I understand the investor point of view quite well.
Great.
I started a foundation repair business many years ago, 35 years ago. I started out just basically doing concrete repairs.
Okay.
And eventually I learned how to do foundation work, diagnosis and foundation repairs. And one of the things I realized is, there's not quite something right here. Something's not really kosher. It seems like everybody is sending sales guys out and oh man, these sales guys, they're not really they're not that smart. They're doing engineering work and they're not engineers. How does that work? And so I finally started to realize that, the industry is kind of screwed up that way. Everybody sends sales guys out. It's the way it's done.
Yeah.
And it really should be done by engineers. So I built an engineering company along with my foundation repair company to help diagnose things. Now, I was the only one in the whole United States that I was aware of that did it that way. Now, there's a company in California called Foundation Repair California that does it similarly, that I've been helping to do this, but that's the only 2 that I know of that would actually utilize civil engineers to understand the problem before you start figuring out what the solution is, right?
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about where you saw that to be a problem and what you've done to fix it?
Yeah. So one of the things I discovered is that, hey, wait a minute, we're not really solving the real problem here. I'll give you an example. So like I had it wasn't my customer, but I know of a customer that was up in a mountainous area of Arizona, and it had a block stem wall that was not grouted solid.
Okay.
Well, this block stem wall, there was the cells of the block were not solid concrete like they're supposed to be. And so it had moved out and the house was sitting just barely on the edge of it, just barely holding it up.
Yeah.
Well, the foundation repair company came out and said, oh yeah, if we put a pier that goes down 25 feet and raise that up, it'll kind of rotate it back. And the homeowner's like, all right, you're the expert, And they had an engineer that did the back end that pulled the permits, but they didn't look at the front end as to what the real problem was, right?
Yeah.
Well, they got all done and it was the same thing. It didn't move, and so the customer's like, well, now what? I got this problem and I spent $27,000 and you guys didn't fix it. And they're like, well, we can't guarantee anything. We said that in our contract. And if you really want to fix this problem, it's another $30,000.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they fixed the wrong problem. And that happens a lot with sales guys because they're not engineers. They don't understand.
They're not using the product. So they don't have that first-hand experience.
Yeah. So that's kind of what set me on my mission. That's why I wrote my book. And by the way, the book is out now.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon. And you can read about what, he versus settlement, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, maybe just to loop back. So obviously the premise of this podcast is real estate investing. I know you talked a little bit about, the properties that you own, but maybe you can just talk about your career path and how you kind of layered on the real estate investing with the other things that you're working on and how they also go in tandem.
Well, it was interesting because I was living in one house, and I noticed in back there was a lot of telephone company trucks going in and out of. Man, there are trucks going out of there all day long. That can't be a person's house. So I found out, well, that house belongs to the phone company. All right. So, well, they weren't. I noticed they weren't using their covered carport. So I called them up. I said, "Hey, would you rent the covered carport to me?" And they said, "Oh no, because we're going to sell it." And I'm like, "Oh, well, how much are you selling it for?" And they said, "We're selling it for $13,000." I'm like, "I'll take it."
Yeah.
Now, it was interesting because it had never been a house. It looked like a house,
Yeah.
but it inside was a smooth floor with no walls, no plumbing, no electrical. There was air conditioning, but there was like no, not enough electricity to like have anything. And so I had to like cut, trenches in the floor and put in sewer pipes and put, supply pipes and build out walls. And I built it all out. And it was still a good deal for me. And that's how I got into the real estate business. And then I realized, hey, this is pretty cool. So at first I just, I built it out so that there was a bedroom in back that could be locked from both sides. And then I rented out the front half of the house as a 1-bedroom house. I thought, well, nobody's going to want a 1-bedroom house, but sure enough, I had demand and people wanted it. So it was cool.
What would you have
thought,
spent in terms of those kinds of repairs to bring it up to a functional habitable house?
Yeah, well, it wasn't repairs in this case. I've done repairs on a lot of rental houses, but in this case, it was just building it out, right? And so that kind of turned me on to it. And over the years, when I saved up a little more money, I just thought, you know what? I'm not going to put it in the stock market. I'm going to put it in real estate. And I did. And I sold my company last year. I got, a lot of money for it, but I had just as much money in value for my real estate. And it served me well over the years. It really did serve me well.
What would you say are some of the challenges that you've experienced as you've invested in different things?
Well, I'll tell you, one house had to do with peering. It was interesting because of my knowledge, I could buy houses with foundation problems, right?
Yeah.
But one house I bought didn't even know it had foundation problems. It was a house that the owner got a divorce and couldn't afford the house anymore, but she wanted to live there for 3 years. So she had a lot of equity in the house. She sold me the house, took $70,000 and prepaid rent up front for 3 years. The end of the 3 years, she moved out. I discovered when I finally went there, I was not allowed into the house. I had to buy it sight unseen.
Yeah. Wow.
But it had all kinds of foundation problems.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I guess it's good you've got your experience then.
Yeah.
So then what did you do exactly? Like with your experience, like, are you servicing now people that have these kinds of issues, or are you just focusing on the products that you would ideally get into the hands of people that have these issues?
Now? Well, I sold my foundation repair company at the end of last year.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So, I'm consulting. I'm here in Northern California doing some consulting today. I wrote my book. I've got some patented products. I've got some software that engineers and contractors are using. So, after 35 years, it was time to kind of move on. And basically my message is, out to people, people investing in real estate, real estate professionals, is that if you have a problem, never call a foundation repair company that doesn't use engineering on the front end. Most of the areas, what that really means is just call an engineer first. Now, that's not going to be free, right? They're going to charge you, and foundation repair companies are going to be free. But guess what? You might end up paying $80,000 for something that you don't even need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So
it's part of your due diligence.
Risk reward thing going on, right? You have to kind of take your chances, but that's really, if you want it done right, you got to call a forensic geotechnical engineer.
Understood. Now, what would you say when you look back at your career, you're most proud of?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of is coming up with the idea that engineers need to be used. It's a relatively new concept. Most people are not aware of it. And on my website, foundationrepairsecrets.com, I have a listing of forensic engineers all around the country that people can call. And so what I'm trying to do is make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Trying to help homeowners, investors, real estate professionals steer clear of being manipulated and steer clear of being talked into doing things that maybe they don't need to spend money doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of the fact that I'm trying to make the world a little better place in the process.
Great. Awesome. Well, on that note, we're just going to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Welcome to the Wealth Club, an exclusive community dedicated to elevating your journey towards financial freedom, well-being, and success. The journey to 1% starts here. Join like-minded leaders and commit to growth for the mind, body, bankroll, and soul. Learn all the proven techniques to change your life forever with direct access to a massive team of more than 10 tried and true experts. Moreover, members enjoy priority access to investment opportunities, job openings, and partnerships within the community. For just $1 a day, members gain entry to specialized forums covering a wide spectrum of fields, discover diverse income streams, new opportunities, collaborations, and employment. Partake in weekly Zoom calls with our team and join monthly live Q&A sessions. Compete and win cash prizes. Active members top the leaderboard for monthly rewards. Ready to get started? Join today to unlock your true potential. To sign up, go to school.com/The Wealth Club. Thanks again for following along with this episode of Inspired to Invest. In addition to real estate, investing, and running my own brand experience agency for 18 years, I also published a book called The Accidental Entrepreneur in October of 2021. This is my story, and it chronicles how I turned tragedy into triumph to embrace my destiny in entrepreneurship. If you're interested in picking up a copy, you can find the link at serenahomesrealtor.com, and you can also find my link tree with all of the retailers in the details below. Thanks again for your support. Is the real estate investment you're considering a gold mine or a landmine? Introducing PropertyCast.io, the black magic of real estate investment analysis. Use PropertyCast.io to analyze and underwrite real estate investment opportunities, unlock the potential of a property, and share professional reports. Jordan McGregor is a commercial realtor and founder of PropertyCast.io. He identified the need to simplify and streamline how properties are underwritten to help investors make better decisions and sound investments. PropertyCast.io is a best-in-class purpose-built tool for real estate investment analysis. To find out more, go to PropertyCast.io, and to sign up, click the link in the show notes. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Inspired to Invest podcast. I have Bob Brown joining me from Northern California, and he's talking about his experience, which spans a lot of different things. But one of the biggest things is teaching homeowners how to avoid wasting money by engaging an engineer sooner so that they're not wasting time and money on products that actually won't fix the problem. So I guess when you look back at, the last 30 to 40 years, what would you say is the craziest thing that you've experienced, either as a real estate investor or as a business owner?
Well, I'll tell you one crazy story about a building. One of the last buildings I did as a foundation repair company, a large tilt-up construction building, and it settled 15 and a half inches, and it was settling at the rate of half an inch a month. This building was in bad shape, and the owner of the building paid us $6 million to fix it. Took us 3 years. We raised the building back up. When we raised it so much, we raised it to 15 and a half inches. You could actually crawl into the building from underneath the footings.
Wow.
You literally, it's kind of scary, but you could crawl underneath there. That's how much we raised it up.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy, crazy, crazy job. What a very interesting, and the building, I think the building was worth $12 million. It was built on top of a landfill.
Wow.
And so they built it knowing that it could be a risk, and they had I think 11 other buildings that didn't have a problem, but this one did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it still paid off for them, but it was a risk they took
Yeah.
knowingly.
Yeah.
And you know, they had to spend some extra money, but it worked out for them. And Amazon is in the building today, using it. Been there for 3 years now, and it's functioning perfectly fine. Raising it up 15 and a half inches. The
Wow.
floor, the footings, everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. I was actually at an event this past weekend and they were talking about actually going in, kind of like you're talking about, like there's about 2 feet underneath the house where they could kind of crawl around in the dirt and stuff like that. They were trying to resolve like a termite issue. So they had to
Yeah.
kind of cut all the footings and stuff like that to try to curb the problem and all of that. So I can
Oh,
kind of envision that. Not that I would ever want to get under something that's sinking and crawl around in the dirt, but
I've done that.
I do
I've done
understand
that
what
plenty
you're
of
talking
times.
about. Yeah. He called it like, being in the mud, and it became this metaphor for all these things in life. Like, and every time they got into trouble, it was like they're in the mud, right? So it
Right.
has this great metaphor and message attached to it. But
That's cool.
I do understand what you're talking about. Now, with your different experience, what would you say is some of the best advice that you've received?
Well, I mean, as a business owner, you always want to be looking at trying to figure out how much risk I can take. So I had a great professor uh, at Arizona State University that told me, you know, Bob, he said, everybody has to decide whether they want to eat better or whether they want to sleep better, because you can't have it both ways. And so that's a really great metaphor for, okay, how much risk do I want to take? Do I want to take a lot of risk and
Yeah,
have some sleepless nights, but eat better, right? Or am I not cut out for risk and I just want to, sleep well at night, and I don't care if I have great dinners,
yeah,
I don't want to eat better. I want to sleep better. And everybody is on this continuum. Some people are one end all the way up the other end, and some people are clear at the other end, and a lot of us are right in the middle.
yeah,
But we all have to know what our risk quotient is. And as business owners, you got to take some risks at some point. Otherwise, you're going to be stagnant. You're just going to be doing what everybody else does, and it's going to be a race to the bottom for price, right? You've got to innovate,
yeah,
and that involves taking risk. How much risk can you stand, right?
yeah,
Oh, I don't know. And some people take more risk than they can stand. And guess what? Now, when the fit hits the shan, they can't hang. They
yeah.
bail, and they make hasty decisions because they're scared and they can't handle the risk.
Yeah.
That's not good. You don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like right now, I don't know what things are like in California, but here in Canada, there's definitely a big, there's been a lot of companies that had scaled too fast and they maybe even raised money the wrong way in some instances. And there's a lot of issues with, that they're kind of walking these really fine lines. Some are going into bankruptcy and receivership and insolvency issues and stuff like that. And, for me, I've been more on the passive side, and I always kind of thought like I'm really well diversified, even if one or two things goes wrong, then I have like
Right.
20 other things. And right now it's probably like 15 to 18 of the 20 things are all, going down. And it's just because of this huge, maybe it's a reaction to the recession and interest rates or scaling too fast, but it's kind of like it's affected a huge volume of companies within the industry. So it's been pretty
Right.
scary for both active and passive investors. But to your point about risk, I think people just really need to understand that when they are investing, whether it's active or passive, they've got to
Right.
maintain the balance, right? And really try to think ahead with their exit strategies and, all the things that kind of come along with that.
I mean, frankly, that's one of the advantages I think of real estate. Even though it's illiquid, uh, it's not very risky. I mean, my portfolio value did go down during the recession of 2008.
Yeah.
But you know what? It wasn't hard to find renters, and I wrote it right on through and didn't lose a single house.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people really, really got hurt bad in that recession.
Yeah.
But real estate, I think, makes a great balance. It doesn't go up and down and all over the place like crypto or
Yeah.
stocks and that kind of stuff,
Not
right?
not to that volatility. I think, where some people are having issues is maybe where they raise debt instead of equity. So that's not necessarily
Right.
sustainable when they run into funding issues. for us, some people have experienced interest rates going from 2 to 3%, upwards of 10% or more in some cases. So it's just, created a lot of liquidity issues and things like that. So
Right.
it's not necessarily the value of the actual property of the portfolio, but just all the different things swirling around it. So
Yep.
yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy time. Now you obviously sold your business last year. What would you say is next for you? Like, is there something else that you're looking to start a new venture on? Or are you just looking to promote your book? Like, what are you hoping to achieve maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I have been on a big mission with my book to create a huge awareness, call it consumer advocacy, okay, of seeing how consumers get taken advantage of. And so that's primarily where I wrote the book, and I've got a couple more that I'm thinking about. But I've developed some software. Part of the problem in the real estate business is that you have expansive clays, or I mean, in the underpinning business, sorry. And it's difficult to know whether you're settling or whether you're swelling, because when clays get wet, they swell and they push things up. And if you've got part of the home or the commercial building that's being pushed up, you don't know whether that's going up or the low part's going down, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell, and things get mistaken. And so I've developed some software that helps analyze all this and helps engineers and contractors help them see a clearer picture. It's a modeling software, and I've got customers using that, and I've got a few patented products that a needle pile and some products to fix heave, which nobody's ever developed, and some products to fix rusting rebar in concrete. So I've got a number of patented products that I've developed over the years that customers are using.
Yeah.
And I hope that it'll save people money, solve problems, and hopefully make people's lives better. That's the main thing that I'm after. At this point, I don't really need to work. I've got 10 times more than I need to retire on. I'm doing things to try to make the world a little better place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. So on that note, the name of this podcast is Inspired to Invest. So I always like to ask people if there's a particular quote that motivates or inspires them.
Oh, a quote that inspires me. I can't, it all comes back to risk and reward for me, and eating and sleeping better. I don't know that I have a particular quote that really inspires me. I've always known that, you spend less than you make and you invest the rest. You pay for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, then you will not reach a place where their money can work for you.
Yeah.
If you don't build up enough where you can survive off the money investments, then you're not saving enough and you're not investing enough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's smart wisdom. So for anyone that wants to get in touch with you or even to find a copy of your book, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Well, you can look at my website or my book with Foundation Repair Secrets. It's on Amazon, but you can also go to foundationrepairsecrets.com, and that's my website. And I've got a blog on there, and I talk about all these issues and what's important for people. So those are all important things. I'm on YouTube. I've got 6,000 followers on Facebook now.
Yeah.
You can find me pretty easily. I'm also known as the Dirt Whisperer.
Yeah, nice.
So you can find me under that name as well.
Great. Well, we'll include all of that information in the show notes below. Obviously, thank you for your time today. And for anyone that is watching, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow along at Inspired to Invest podcast on social. And of course, remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again. Thank you to the Wealth Club for bringing you this episode of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.